Welcome back to Book on a Shelf. Today, we're diving headfirst into the mind of a murderer. We're going to deconstruct a story that's so much more than just a horror tale. It pulls you right into the experience of madness itself. Of course, I'm talking about Edgar Allan Poe's masterpiece, The Telltale Heart. So, the story kicks off in a really unusual way. It's not with some spooky setting, but with a direct challenge. To you. The narrator is talking right to us, the reader. He basically says, I know you think I'm crazy, but you're wrong. And bam, just like that, the entire tension of the story is set up from the very first line. All right, Section 1, a question of sanity. We're judging the evidence of an unreliable narrator. And that opening line, it throws us right into this idea of the unreliable narrator. It's brilliant, really. We're basically put in the jury box. This guy's the suspect, and he's pleading his case. But can we actually trust a single word he says? That's the big question.
So this is his main argument, his big defense for why he's not crazy. And you've got to hear this. He doesn't deny he has some disease, as he calls it. No, he spins it. He claims it didn't make him mad. It actually sharpened his senses, made him almost superhuman. This is the bedrock of his entire argument, but, well, we're about to see just how shaky that foundation really is.
Okay, on to the next piece of the puzzle. The vulture eye. This is all about an obsession with no real motive. I mean, think about it. If you're going to commit a crime and claim you're sane, you need a motive, right? Greed, revenge, something logical. But our guy? Yeah, he's got none of that. And what's so wild is how he just goes down the list, one by one, and crosses off every single logical reason you could think of. He's like, nope, wasn't for money. He never did anything bad to me. In fact, I loved the old guy. The irony is just perfect. In trying to prove how logical he is, he's actually building the perfect case for how completely and totally irrational he is. And then he lands on it, his reason. It's just so bizarre. He says, I think it was his eye. It wasn't the man he hated, just this one single thing about him, his vulture eye. I mean, come on. A fixation on something so strange and specific, that's not a motive. That is textbook obsession. So let's talk about his methodical madness. You see, the plan is to prove his sanity. Okay, so his motive is clearly bonkers. How does he get around that? Well, in his mind, it's all about the how. He's convinced that the way he planned and carried out the crime so carefully, so precisely, is the ultimate proof that he's got it all together. And this leads to his little 7-night ritual. Every single night, he does the same thing. He gently opens the door, sticks his head in, and slowly, so slowly, opens his lantern to shine a tiny beam of light on that eye. And he's so proud of this. He keeps telling us how clever and cautious he is. To him, this isn't some creepy stalking. No, it's a work of genius. And this is where you see the huge gap between his words and his actions. He's using words like wisely and with caution, but what is he actually doing? He's sneaking into an old man's room every night to stare at him while he sleeps. The fact that he's so proud of this absolutely terrifying act might just be the most chilling proof of his madness yet. So 7 nights go by like this, 7, but he can never do the deed because the eye is always closed. Remember, it's the eye he hates, not the man. But then, on the 8th night, everything changes. His perfect, cautious plan hits a snag. He makes a noise. And that's the moment. He throws the lantern open, and the beam of light hits it. The eye is open, wide, wide open. And just like that, all that careful planning, all that patience he was so proud of, it's gone. Poof, instantly replaced by just pure, blinding rage. Which brings us to the next part, the beating underneath. This is where guilt literally becomes a sound. And this is where the great irony kicks in. You know that sharpened sense of hearing he was bragging about? Well, it's about to become his own worst enemy. See, what he thinks is super hearing is actually what we'd call an auditory hallucination. It's the perception of a sound that isn't really there, and it's often a symptom of, you guessed it, extreme psychological distress. His own mind, totally jacked up on adrenaline and obsession, is literally creating a sound that only he can hear. And what does he hear? A sound like a watch wrapped in cotton. He says he knows that sound. It's the old man's heart. But you have to wonder, right?
Is it the old man's heart, or is it a reflection of his own heart, just pounding in his ears? Either way, this sound gets louder and louder, driving him absolutely wild with terror, until he just snaps. But what happens right after is so chilling. The moment the old man is dead, the sound stops, and his calm just returns. Instantly. He's back to being the wise and cunning planner. He dismembers the body, hides it under the floorboards so perfectly, cleans everything up. In his mind, it's a job well done. Problem solved. He's just finished his perfect crime when, knock, 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 it's the police. A neighbor heard a scream. You can just feel it, right? This is the ultimate test. Can he hold it together? And at first, oh yeah, he's totally cool. He's charming. He's confident. He's not worried at all. In fact, he gets so cocky, so audacious, he actually brings chairs for the policeman into the old man's room and puts his own chair right on top of the very spot where the body is hidden. The nerve. But then, as he's sitting there, probably gloating to himself, it starts. A faint noise in his ears. He knows that sound. It's the beating. He tries to ignore it, to talk louder to the officers, but it just gets louder. He can't escape it. He starts getting agitated, talking faster, probably pacing around the room. The sound just keeps getting stronger and stronger. And the whole time, the police are just chilling, making small talk. They don't hear a thing. But for him, it's not a small sound anymore. It's this horrible, loud drumming, and he becomes absolutely convinced that they must hear it too. And then his paranoia takes over completely. He decides they do hear it. They're just pretending not to. They're mocking him. And that's it. The pressure is too much. The whole house of cards he built around his sanity just comes crashing down. And this brings us to the confession, the heart's confession. This is the final, undeniable proof. It's just the ultimate irony, isn't it? The one thing he relied on to prove he was sane, his own mind, his own senses, is the very thing that creates the sound that proves he's completely mad. And he just explodes. He screams at them, "Villains, dissemble no more! I admit the deed." He tells them to tear up the planks, pointing to the spot. It is the beating of his hideous heart. All that work, his perfect crime, is completely undone by a noise that was never even there. His greatest strength was his greatest weakness all along. Which leaves us with one final, chilling question to think about. Whose heart was it, really? Was it some supernatural echo of the old man's heart coming back to haunt him? Or was it just the sound of his own guilty heart, beating so loudly in his ears that he finally had to confess? It's a question Poe leaves for us to answer. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And that's our look at the Telltale Heart. If you enjoyed this deconstruction, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Book on a Shelf. We've got more literary deep dives coming your way, so stay tuned for the next one.